All right, Adam, you ready to rock and roll?
I am ready to rock and roll.
Let's do this. All right, Adam. So just quickly here, introduce yourself so we know who you are, what you do, and then we can go from there.
Sure. Well, my name is Adam Greenhood, and I'm currently the founder and CEO of a new company called Adwallet, and based here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but we've now scaled all over the country.
Yeah. So before I start into the main, obviously, bulk of the interview, I wanted to get started off with a random question. The random question that I had for you, Adam, was your slogan. Looking into your company, I thought that the slogan was actually a very, very cool and unique thing. So I wanted to ask, what was it that actually happened that made you or whoever came up with that slogan? Like, what was the story behind that? How did someone find it out? Or was it just kind of the typical, this is a good saying, we should stick with it? Or was there a story behind it that's actually interesting?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's funny. There is a good story behind that. For the past 20 years, I've been in advertising, and specifically, I was a copywriter. So, coming up with the taglines and slogans and the words, that's what I was paid to do for 20 years. So, of course, when it was my company, I'm like, it better have a really good tagline,
Exactly.
Um, but actually, that's kind of how it started. I've been thinking about this problem for a long time, and the problem mainly being, why can't advertisers just pay people for their attention? Why do they have to pay Google and Facebook and all of these publishers,
Exactly.
frankly? Why can't we just skip all that and just buy the attention direct? Because that's really what they want. So I've been thinking about that problem for a while, and actually I was on my honeymoon, and we were in Hawaii in this beautiful condo, and I was watching TV kind of in the morning, and as we were getting ready for breakfast, and there was a commercial on that I can't even remember what it was about, but it was finishing with, we want your attention to this. And then the commercial right after that was one of those commercials for like, hey, send us all your gold jewelry and we'll melt it down. We'll give you cash, like we'll pay you for your jewelry.
Yeah,
And
seen
it
those.
just so right. So it just so happened that I heard these words like paid attention literally on top of each other. And I kind of had
Mm,
this aha moment where I'm like, I've been spending 20 years and about $100 million of my clients' money trying to get people to pay attention. But really, the play on words there is, well, you should be paid for your attention. That's actually what advertisers
yeah,
are spending their money for. And that was paid attention. And so once I had the tagline, it was like, oh, now I need a company, to fit
exactly.
that awesome tagline. Right.
So that sounds like that was also the origin of the company as well. Is that correct? That
It was the
moment?
moment. Yeah, the problem I've been noodling about for about a month earlier, I had a few clients basically tell me that they didn't believe in advertising anymore, that they felt there was so much
Really?
clutter, there was so much advertising that people have to digest during the day, that who is really paying attention to anything. And so I've been really kind of questioning my entire professional life for about a month earlier. What am I doing here? And yeah, when I heard those two words, that sort of crystallized the basic premise, the general premise of,
Mhm.
yeah, why are all we do is talk about paying for attention, but we never talked about actually buying it from the source, which is people. Um, what would it look like to do that? And frankly, that's sort of what started Adwallet. To your point, at least it started it as, all right, if I was going to buy your attention, I was going to buy Josh's attention, how do I create a mechanism or a pipeline or a tool that could actually successfully do that, so it's valuable for both the advertiser who's paying for it, as
Yeah.
well as the end, in our case, a member on AdWallet, where it's frankly a value proposition for both sides, rather than what we currently mainly have outside of AdWallet, which is more of a cloak and dagger, disastrous mess of wasting money, and it's not very good for advertisers, and it's not very good for customers either. So that was really kind of
Yeah.
it. It was sort of like, what if, what would it have to be?
Yeah. I actually watched so you go to your homepage as a company, adwallet.com, and there's obviously a meet the founder, and the video was the one of the pitches that you've done about how AdWallet works, what the problem is, the solution. And really, it was such an interesting concept. I watched the whole thing and took a lot of notes just based on that presentation. Um, but for now, what we want to especially get out of you is for the younger and newer entrepreneurs, just the strategies and the creative nature that you had, obviously scaling the company so that they can almost implement that as well.
Sure.
And then obviously talking about, for my curiosity, just how everything works and
Sure.
more of that nature, which obviously I was going to talk to you before we started recording about.
Yeah.
This thing is awesome. I love this concept. There's nothing like it I've ever seen. But Adam, the next place I wanted to go was obviously to start off on the right foot is just how did you get Adwallet kicked off? What was the story of you actually taking that first step into creating the business?
Yeah. And I think it's a good, I'm not a serial entrepreneur. It's funny. I was like most people, I love watching Shark Tank occasionally and
Yeah.
get into it, and I honestly think everyone in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe because of Shark Tank, have become more interested in that idea of entrepreneurship. And I think there's a great saying you hear Mark Cuban say, there's the sort of entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurs. Everybody
Mhm.
loves the premise of being an entrepreneur. It's sexy, it's cool, but then actually getting into it, like anything, it's hard and scary, and
100%.
it's all the other
100%.
things, right? So, and I wasn't, and full disclosure, really, for my entire life up until 3 years ago, I was happy being the number one employee. I was happy being like, hey, you pay me the money, I go home without the stress. You deal with your own
Yeah.
company. You just pay me the money, and I'll take less stress. I don't need to own
Yeah.
this thing.
And
And
there's
then
nothing wrong
when,
with that. Nothing at
not at
all.
all. God, not at all. And so I wasn't the one selling my, my Christmas bike to my friends when I was 9 years old and like hucking,
Yeah.
like you hear Mark Cuban, like I have been trying to like, selling my Christmas, my birthday presents, I really wasn't that person. But when this idea came along and the solution came along, very specifically for me, it was sort of a labor of love. And it got to the point where I was scared, obviously, to leave my cushy job. I had a very cushy job that I'd worked very hard for.
Yeah.
And I think it got to the point where I finally turned to my wife and she said, if someone else were to try this and it worked, how would that make you feel? And it was like, I would want to walk into traffic, right? I would never forgive myself for, right, for not trying it. I could forgive myself for trying it and it failing, but I couldn't forgive myself for not even taking a swing. And I think that's for
Mhm.
any entrepreneur out there, that's the moment when I think you realize you're turning from entrepreneur, like, wouldn't it be cool to have a yacht and, be my own boss and all this, into the entrepreneur, which is like, I'm ready to basically fail. Whereas if I were to fail, I would still be okay knowing I
Yeah.
tried, rather than I could not watch someone else succeed in this exact same idea. It would be too hard. And so,
Yeah.
that's the moment. And I don't care what kind of business you're trying to start. I think that for me, I really think that's sort of the moment. Whatever it is.
Yeah. You
So
know,
yeah,
Wayne Gretzky said it best, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
sure.
apply that to entrepreneurship, apply that to just about anything in life. Um, Adam, the next section of what I wanted to ask in the same the same type of question is, what was the actual first MVP, or what was the
Mhm.
product like in the very beginning? Did you go and find people in the very beginning to obviously build that for you? What was that first moment of scale where you actually had something and you had your first customer? Describe
Yep.
that whole area for us here in
Sure.
your business.
Sure. And that's a major moment for anybody, whatever you're doing. If you're opening a restaurant or you're
Huge.
creating an app or whatever, I mean, that first dollar, there's a reason why people put that up on the wall. Um, so for me, I had a leg up, you might say, because when I came up with the concept of Adwallet, all I had been doing professionally for 20 years was creating creative presentations to sell ideas. So I put
Yeah.
together what I felt was a pretty strong PowerPoint, if you will, that showed kind of a what if, like, this is what it would look like. This is what the app does. This is obviously the problem it's solving, but this is also some screenshots of how we envision the app to look like, to work. What's the user experience? Enough that basically anybody could look at it and go, yeah, I download that. Yeah, I do that. And I think, honestly, you find in the very beginning for investors, they're much more interested in that moment, which is, can I see myself, understand the problem you're solving and see myself doing that? That's a pretty big connective dot. So I raised about $500,000 fairly quickly on that first deck from friends, family, extended people I knew, extended wealthy people, kind of private individual wealth, who kind of got wind of it. And with that money, I spent about $75,000 of that money to create the initial MVP. And I had worked with a software development company that I had worked with before in my professional life, creating ads and apps and things like that. So I know those guys pretty well. And basically what we wanted to create was something that was a legit MVP, which people could actually sign up and advertisers could use and members could use, and it would work. It wouldn't be designed to hold millions and millions of people, but it could hold 50,000 people, and it could do what it needed to do at a very basic level. And so we created that first MVP in about 90 days. It was
Wow.
pretty rocket speed. Those guys, they had about 4 guys working on it, and we created it over the summer in 2017 and launched it at the end, about September of 2017. And I remember I had a launch party where we launched the app, right? And I invited, a couple hundred people. And the next day I woke up and we had, 75 people had signed up. And that first 75 people, we didn't have 145,000 people on Adwallet, but that first 75 people, that was so cool. You'd be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, we have 75 people. And then the first advertiser was actually a local business. And again, same sort of feeling, came on the app, downloaded, put his credit card down. We processed the credit card. Suddenly they ran a campaign on Adwallet. I think it was for $500. And that $500 just felt better than any $50,000 ad buy we've had since. Yeah. And actually the best feeling was my former boss, the gentleman who owned the advertising agency that I was sort of a number 2 employee at, about 3 months later, ended up running a campaign for my former agency on Adwallet. And I still have, that was for $1,000. I still have that check from my old agency paying my new company to run ads. That was awesome. Pretty cool. Yeah,
that's ironic. Yeah. So I want to break down a couple things from the answer you just gave. One, I'm curious about that launch party. That seems for you and your company to have been something that helped it take that next step or just move in the right direction. I guess first off, was that like a virtual event? What specifically was that launch party, so we understand what it was that actually got you the users?
Yeah, well, and I should also say that with that initial raise, that sort of $500,000, $600,000, where that money went was, like I said, about 75 went to build the MVP.
Yeah.
And then we spent about $200,000. I mean, it's a considerable amount of money to sort of launch Adwallet. That party I'm talking about, that was actually a small thing. 200 people. It was friends, family, investors, as well as we invited the press, here in New Mexico to cover it. The ad community, obviously I have a lot of connections within the advertising community. So they were there. But really and that got me the first 75 people. What got me the next 25,000 people in New Mexico was we ran a very, like I said, we spent about $200,000 and we ran TV, radio, print, digital, outdoor boards. I mean, it was basically a blitz for about 2 or 3 months, sort of here's Adwallet. And the idea was designed to sort of, it's funny, in advertising, you can do it 2 ways. You could do sort of a slow trickle, right? You could do a little bit of money for a long time. Or you can kind of, if you're into boxing, right, it's kind of who punch first and punch hard, kind of explode. Yep. And you don't have the kind of money to explode forever, but, would you rather for 2 months explode? And that's really what we did. Created a lot of its own buzz. People around town, what are all these outdoor boards? What is Adwallet? I don't understand, and that really, we went from 75 people to about 20,000 in New Mexico within, for 2 or 3 months. And then, within the app, we encourage people to refer their friends, and we pay them an extra $1 when they refer their friends. So that's a pretty, viral way that we grow. But that was kind of it. So I would say, that's not necessarily the only path, but we have we have a consumer product and a business product where a lot of apps, a lot of startups are not necessarily consumer facing. They're solving problems for small businesses, for businesses, and that's, you need outdoor boards to do that, right? But we're kind of both, actually. So we had to explain what Adwallet worked to the consumer so that we could have members, because advertisers don't care about Adwallet unless it has beings that they can advertise to. And you also had a 2-sided marketplace. You had to explain to the advertiser, how does this work? Why should you take money out of other things you're doing and put them on Adwallet?
Yeah. So with trying to tie this back to newer entrepreneurs wanting to do the same thing, um, if they are wanting to do a blitz model, obviously get things kicked off as fast as possible. How you did it obviously is a very good route, but minusing having a high amount of capital, what would you recommend that these people can do if they want that quick hitter marketing tactic that'll get that amount of people into their email list, into, you know, a sign up list of some sort on an
Right.
app, whatever it might be? What for you? I know it's a complicated question, but how would you recommend them to do something similar without having a whole lot of resources? What are
Sure.
just some points you would touch on there if someone were to ask you that?
Sure. When you don't have the resources, and everyone could always use more resources, right? So I spent 200,000.
Exactly.
I wish I had 2 million. Um, Going back to being a creative in advertising, was really what I did for 20 years, was sort of trying to solve this problem. The number two things you can do is be bold and be sticky, right? So when you're
Mhm.
creating marketing for your whatever you're trying to market, don't play in the kiddie pool. To back to the reason why I started Adwallet was there is so much competition for attention. Remember how little you're actually paying attention to most things during the day, especially ads.
Yeah.
What would you have to do to create something that created so much of a stir that you had to pay attention to it? So don't play in the middle when it comes to sort of creating your marketing. Play way out on the edge. Play way over your skis.
Play the
Basically,
extremes almost.
play way to the extremes, right?
Mhm.
Because that's sort of what people pay attention. That's almost
Yeah.
the only thing that will cut through the clutter. So don't sort of be tactical, be big, and play over your skis. Whatever your message is, make it the most bold possible, but it's still relevant to what you're trying to do. And on the same side, you don't want it to be sticky. So, for example, in my old life as an ad creative director, we do a lot of events, meaning they'd be like stunts, because if you do something remarkable like a stunt downtown, again, be relevant, right? Just don't do a stunt just to do a stunt, but that it truly,
Have a
um,
purpose.
exactly, it's truly backed in the relevance of what is this thing. Um, the press will come free. There's nothing better than free attention. So
Hmm.
when the news picks you up, especially the news, because when the news picks you up, you're able to use obviously those bits of video in your own promotion of your own LinkedIn channel and your own social
Exactly.
media channel and all of those
Disperse
things.
that.
And that's almost gold better because it's been washed not through you, because now a news channel has said this is something super cool that people should pay attention to, not you are saying it's something cool that someone said, you, the owner of the company, please, this is the
Yeah.
coolest thing ever. It's a third party. So anything you can do to kind of create something that you think the news will cover, especially when you have a whole lot of money, you're going to get 100x on basically whatever it costs to do that event. So, for example, instead of spending
Yeah.
$200,000 on paid media, I could have spent $20,000, $20,000, and done some remarkable stunt, like setting an outdoor board on fire and saying it's time for the revolution and stop this crap. It's time for you to pay us and not them. Right? And that would have been covered. It would have been viral. I think I'm going to do that. I think it's a great idea now that I say it. But something that creates coverage. So don't. But the most important thing is don't play in the middle. You don't have enough money. You
Hmm.
can waste a lot of money playing in the middle.
Yeah.
um, Go be bold. Yeah.
So this is an obvious digression, but because of your background of what you've done, I feel like you would have a very good answer to this. TikTok. TikTok is a huge thing for obviously new up and coming brands. Really, at the end of the day, just engagement. So, for a business, let's say, for example, uh, any type of business that might not be like a YouTube channel, a personal brand, an actual business that does SaaS or is a B2B, how could they use like TikTok to almost leverage the amount of awareness they have and the amount of traffic they're getting and eventually to increase their revenue? What would you say about that space, TikTok, for those people?
TikTok is interesting. TikTok, if in case unless you've noticed, especially in the last 3 weeks, just opened an ad platform right there, and that's how these social media start. It's like, okay, we created this cool party, everybody's having fun. Facebook was the initial
Yep.
one, and then we got Instagram, and we got Snap, and but they basically the idea is let's create a cool party where everybody's enjoying sharing their own videos, but there's no money in it, frankly,
Exactly.
for Snap, no money. So that can only go on so long until those investors are like, all right, party's over. We got to figure out how we can make money doing this object. It's
Hmm.
expensive to run it. And TikTok is definitely at that moment, right? That sort of zeitgeist in their company's history. And so you're definitely starting to see, I see ads all day on Instagram and on LinkedIn, basically promoting, hey, take your small business and use TikTok. I think they're giving away like $300 or something for your first ad test on TikTok.
Wow.
It's tricky. So and this is TikTok trying to grow up and be a big boy, right? Saying, okay,
Hmm.
to your point, it's not just for the kids. If you got some sort of SaaS model software, that's going to help me, be better at accounting for my small business, whatever, don't dismiss TikTok as a way of
Exactly.
communicating that. I think TikTok's got a little further to go. I still think TikTok is in that zone where Facebook was after a few years. People were like, it's for the kids. You're not going to convince me that I can do real business. It's all I'm seeing is my 16-year-old dancing on it. There's no real business to
Exactly.
be done there. It's not that it's popular, but it's to advertise Kit Kat, not software for accounting. I
100%.
would say, and so I wouldn't totally dismiss it, but I'd say that it still has to prove that it can really connect that dot. I will say, hey, it's hard to argue in 1/3 of America. What do they got? Something like 100 million people or 80 million, people, Americans have a TikTok account. How active are they? Is my 14-year-old daughter far more active than me? Yeah, of course. I do, again, think it's a cool space, though, for breakout. So think about it this way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you wouldn't necessarily think that the best way to promote ocean spray cranberry juice would be TikTok, but apparently
Yeah.
some dude, right, on a skateboard,
It's amazing. It's
ocean
amazing.
spray, that's selling out, as well as Fleetwood Mac, which my daughter, who's 14 years old, just found out about. It's
It's
all due to
amazing.
her. Right? So there is lightning in a bottle, and I think though TikTok is still where the bottle exists, frankly, but you got to fill it with lightning, and that's pretty tricky. That's a
Yeah.
tall order.
Yeah, I just looked up the users and it's 80 million
80 million.
approximately.
All
So,
right.
I mean, that's quite a bit. So, I want to bring us back to obviously the story of Adwallet. I wanted to touch on the people though, and how exactly you got the people that are working with you now to obviously get to that point. So rewinding back to the beginning of obviously when you were starting to get capital, who was with you? How many people were with you? And what was the story of trying to, aggrandize these people into this idea that you had? Tell us about that so we know what it was like.
Sure. So in the beginning, I don't care what business it is, in the beginning, you're going to have to find folks that have that same sort of passion that you have, because it's going to be you in a room. Like there's not going to be some cool office, and especially if you're trying to
Exactly.
get good people, you got to woo them away from already good jobs that they've worked very hard to get. You're not going to compete with their benefits. You are not going to compete with the money they make. You're not going to compete with almost anything they currently have. Unless you just happen to be, two 22-year-old kids in a garage and neither of you have anything. In my case, that wasn't the case. So you have to sell them on, it's interesting. I gave the same pitch to people to work for Adwallet initially, and still do, as I did to investors. It's the same pitch, right? Because it's about, can you, what's the revolution here? And very specifically, I was looking for people who were aligned the same way I was with the problem. So to unpackage that a little bit, my first two hires were people who had been in advertising for 20 years. They were salespeople. They had sold almost every type of radio, TV, print. They'd sold all this
Hmm.
stuff. And my pitch to them was, you're full of shit. Right? You know that when you're looking across at a client, you don't fully believe that when they give you their money, you're going to be able, they run an ad in this magazine or run an ad on TV,
Yeah.
that they're necessarily going to see the results they expect, because you know that you don't know how many people are watching TV. And yes, people listen to the radio, but I don't know how many people care about the dumb ad that are running, and
Hmm.
I pretty much pitched it that way, which is the ads are always the interruption. And so wouldn't you like to sell something that solves that conundrum? And so they had to basically bite off on, I want to work for a company where I can look at my client and tell them legitimately I have a better mousetrap than any mousetrap you've ever seen. And that goes for SaaS product, it goes for anything you're going to work with on a entrepreneurial level, is everyone in the beginning, they had really better believe the Kool-Aid that we've got something here that is better than anything else out there. And that's why we're here. And, hopefully 18 months from now, sales will demonstrate that we do have something that's better than anything out there. And
Exactly.
we'll actually get an office with chairs, and, we'll get good t-shirts, and it'll be awesome.
So
But they
Adam,
got
I
to believe
want
in the
to
passion.
I want to ask, with what you're saying, being bold and sticky with how you started marketing in the beginning, does that also go along with pitching to people, to get investors, to sales, to HR? You would agree to that, as being bold in the beginning helps grow and basically grow the idea, grow the company. Is that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that we don't live in a world anymore where there's room for sort of wishy-washy. You are either great or it's, Steve Jobs had a great saying, many of them, but one of them that I really like the best, which is you have to validate sort of why should this thing exist? And when you think about your company that you're starting in terms of that, like that really does put a little, it really does kind of fine tune the edge of the razor there, which is like, oh no,
Yeah.
it could exist. It's not that it's hurting anyone, but like, does it deserve to exist? Is it truly adding to the value of planets by putting this out there? Is it solving truly a problem people needed to solve? And so to your point, yeah, and that passion is felt by investors, because think about it. In
Yes.
the beginning, when you're raising a Series B or a Series C and you're raising $50 million or $100 million, that stuff is more math, right? It's like, well, we saw the sales and we see the growth, and this is a math equation. In the beginning, when you're trying to raise your first dollar, and I would say all the way up to your Series A, even your Series A, that's still like, I don't know, man. I just got in the room with that person, and I'm a believer, right? It isn't necessarily that there's no sales, there's no math behind it. I believe the math will work if it gets to, but I truly believe we're on a crusade here. I'm putting my money behind something that I feel I just believe in, and they need to feel that from the founder. They need to feel that from everyone that works for us. I also would say that this has come up a lot in my 3-year journey, which has been investors tend to really like it when the person who's solving the problem that they're going to invest in comes from the problem. Meaning the fact that I was in advertising for 20 years, then decided to do this because basically I identified that advertising is stunningly broken, and I'm sort of the disavowed creative director that's willing to actually tell you the truth. Like that goes down really easy. It's like an accountant saying, the accounting systems you use are totally crazy. So I actually, well, it's from an accountant, it's not like, my cousin who runs a car wash decided that, so your story aligning with the problem that you're solving, I think that's the best case scenario. And if you aren't necessarily from the industry, figure out a way where that story that you're telling, whether it's a new hire or it's a new investor or it's your wife or husband when you're trying to beg them to let you do this, that truly aligns with aligns with why should you solve this particular problem for the world.
Exactly. What you said a little earlier, you remind me of Ethan Hunt. If you've seen Mission Impossible, you're that rogue agent that is going away from kind of the standards that are set in place of, international security and whatnot. But it's relative. I thought it was funny when I thought of it. But I wanted to move on.
If you want to compare me ever to Tom Cruise, you just go right ahead. You just knock yourself out.
I willingly will do.
I know. We have very similar look. It's definitely a similar chin line. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But Adam, I wanted to move more to the present time with Adwallet. The first question I feel like to get into this in particular is after you had gotten the first couple of businesses to use Adwallet to run campaigns, what were you doing at that point to progress getting more people into that system? What plans did you have in place to go and pitch and have these people come onto Adwallet and advertise that way rather than not the conventional way? What was that strategy and what did that process look like?
We definitely, when it came to getting more advertisers, took the strategy of, again, bold and sticky. And I think you saw one of the videos, we basically spent a lot of money sponsoring becoming lead sponsors, frankly, at where these advertisers go. And so there's in the case of advertisers, there's Ad Age and Ad Week, as well as Media Post. These are kind of the publications that are sort of the trade publications, if you will, for the ad community. And these companies have these events every 2 or 3 months at very exotic locations. And what I realized very early on was I didn't want to sponsor an event where I could just put my logo up or my table out, or they'd give me a logo and a placement in the magazine. It really didn't make sense. I needed an opportunity to be able to have a half an hour, frankly, 20 or 30 minutes to explain the story, sort of the origin story of Adwallet and what it really is, because it's so different. So I went to one of those events. I don't know which video you had seen, but I've done about 10 of them. And they're very expensive. Literally, it cost us probably about $25,000 for 25 minutes on stage. And the people in the audience, so there's a couple hundred people in the audience, but they were the who's who of advertising. They were and we basically did the math saying, yeah, we're paying a lot of money for this, but 1 or 2 of these people say yes after I get off the stage that they want to try this, more than pays for this investment. In many ways, right? So again, go higher up the tree. We could have easily said, yeah, it's $25,000. How about we just run, $500 Facebook ads to targeted ad people, and it's almost feels like skipping off the atmosphere. When you're in a startup, you need to you need to figure out a way not to skip off the atmosphere, and that's a quick way to do it. So for us, and of course, ironically, the event would hate it. Well, they didn't hate it, but they cringe every time I get up on stage and say, yeah, well, I run a company that basically, allows you to buy attention of your number one customer. And I'm doing the same thing here. I paid $25,000 to stand in front of my customers, 200 of you people. And I identified that $25,000 for 20 minutes isn't actually a good trade for your specific attention. Adwallet does the same thing, but does it for, $1 a person. So, trying to connect that, and they would lean into that, right? So again, wherever you're telling that story, trying to tell it in a way where the audience that you're talking to can instantly sort of be very disarmed. To your point, sort of that Ethan Hunt feeling like, ooh, we're getting an insider, right? We've got a disavowed person from behind the cloak who's going to finally tell us what we really already thought anyway, but we want to hear him say it.
Exactly.
So it's very, you connect with people very quickly there. And if you can do that in the first couple minutes, you have them at hello, right? Then they're like, okay, now I'm really listening. We're through the veiled sort of show, and now we're really going to hear the truth. And that's all people really want to hear is whatever you're selling, may it be the truth.
True. First impressions really do mean a lot, I feel like. So that's something that a lot of people should try to learn and get down, so that the rest of the way they're in control of the conversation, either in business or in any kind of relationship, whatever it might be. But Adam, I want to get down to the nitty gritties on this one in particular, because I feel like for any entrepreneur getting into software, the market of software, any sort of bigger business type of, whatever you might call it, of creation, they have to go to other CEOs and pitch their idea if they want them to work with you on your business or just be a client. So with getting these types of opportunities, how specifically did you get yours? Were you working yourself to solidify these 25-minute events? Did you have a team help you find these? What specifically was that process to get these meetings to acquire clients? What did that look like when you were going through that?
Yeah, so I was lucky. My first couple hires were a sales team. It's a bigger team now, but it was a team, me and them. So they would handle more local sales, more sort of, I'd say sort of more hand-to-hand combat in connecting with, local advertisers about Adwallet and how it can be used.
Yeah.
For this higher level stuff, again, I had the advantage of coming from this industry. So I knew already sort of the publications. I knew the people that I wanted to connect with. But I'll tell you, when I found, there were a few different publications, like I mentioned. Media Post is the one that we ended up having a huge relationship with. Ad Age is another huge one that we tried a couple things with and didn't like. But really, I did find, to your point, that certainly in the beginning, it's got to come from the top. So the events that we did in trying to get these super high level clients, it had to be me on stage. It had to be me following up. It had to be, people do come, we're all like this, right? You might actually get more information from, frankly, one of my, my VP of sales about Adwallet. It would be more accurate. It'd be more, she'll be more prompt about it.
Yeah.
But if it's like, oh, but I get to meet with the CEO, oh, I feel, that someone feels more important, that they're meeting with someone more important.
Yep.
There is that psychology to that. And so there would be times, frankly, my VP of sales would say, hey, I really need you to email this person. They need to see that it's the CEO, leading, even if it's just saying hi, or, hey, if our client had a problem or didn't get the results they wanted from Adwallet, it would be me to go like, hey, I heard that, things didn't work out. Let's try it again. Let's do that. And it would go over so much more powerfully than the salesperson doing it. So,
Yeah.
In the beginning, you can't be 1,000 places at once. But I will say that, especially at the startup, as much as you can possibly give if you're the CEO or the founder in the beginning, to connect those initial, to sort of nurture those initial clients, that's really important, even though you've got 1,000 other things to do. Because here's the other thing to remember: those clients, when they work with other companies, not yours, aren't going to be meeting with the CEO, right? Those companies are already established, big, they're going to be meeting with the mid-level salespeople, and that's fine. So that's sort of the advantage you have over them too, which is you're going to kind of make them feel like a big deal, because to you, they are.
Exactly.
They are. They should feel very, very, nurtured and cultivated, and because it pays off in spades. If they have a great experience, they tell 2 or 3 people, they come back. What you're really trying to do is get people to use it again. It's anybody will give something a swing once. It's really, okay, I took a bite of the apple. I like the apple. I came back for more. And that's, but getting that first bite of the apple, it's definitely on the CEO. So for us, again, it was, let's do fewer events, but the events that we do, let's make them super big. And when we do them, we're not going to be the mid-level sponsor. We're not going to have a table in the back. We're going to be a keynote sponsor, and we're going to pay the penny to do it. The other interesting thing about these events was they were over a few days. And so I would always try to work to get my presentation in on the first day, have everybody see it, go, wow, that sounds really cool. And then for the next 2 days, I'd be taking these guys to dinner, playing golf, talking, sitting next to them at breakfast, and really allowing that next 2 days to really just, all right, you saw what we do. Now, we can be friends. And by the end, it'd be like, hey, usually it'd be like, hey, your thing sounds really cool. I want to give it, a swing, let's do it. It's like, cool. Yeah. So sort of bigger and go big again, big and sticky, rather than, okay, we're going to do 10 times as many sponsorships, but they're going to be little things. It's like nobody saw your little thing. So you get 1,000 if you want.
So Adam, what I want to ask now, just to understand more of what Adwallet does and how it functions day to day now, how specifically, if you feel comfortable in answering this question, just the business model and how it makes money from the advertisers that actually do advertising, or does it come from the people that are watching the ads? Like, how specifically does it actually make money, and how did you figure out that sort of business model? Sure.
Well, that was kind of key, right? Like you can have the school story, but an investor's going to know, like, cool, how does it make money?
100%.
It's actually how Adwallet makes money is very, very, very transparent. It's transparent to the member. So if you sign up for Adwallet as a consumer, just as anyone can have an Adwallet account, it's free. And you're basically signing up, and the Adwallet basically says, look, if you want, Nissan to pay you instead of pay television and radio and Google and Facebook, what they're going to pay to try to run an ad to you. If you want them to run an ad directly to you, the first thing you're going to need to know is, who are you, right? What information are you willing to reveal to advertisers on Adwallet, knowing that it's not going to be shared, but it's your information. How old are you? How much money do you make? Where do you live? What do you like? What do you not like? And this becomes sort of, you take basically a survey in the beginning where it becomes your sort of digital fingerprint of here's Josh and here's who he is and here's who he isn't. Do not send Josh tampon ads. Do not send him ads. Send him ads for things he cares about. So the member comes on, puts that information in. The advertisers then come on to Adwallet and say, all right, I'm looking for a 28-year-old guy who's outdoorsy and loves snowboarding. We're Burton, cool. So they put in that information and Adwallet spits out, all right, of all the members, there's 200, there's what, 22,907, men over the age of 25 that were snowboarders on Adwallet. Cool. Yeah. So basically they put on there, they can pay a credit card or just an invoice. Where Burton, let's just go ahead with Burton as an example. They're like, okay, there's whatever 3,000 men like that. We'll give Adwallet $3,000. So they give us $3,000 to basically cover the amount of ads we're going to send out to those 3,000 guys who love snowboarding. So Burton writes us a check for $3,000. We take 1,500 of it out. We basically keep about 50% for ourselves. And the other $1,500 goes into an escrow account, because when Burton then sends that ad to you, and you're going to get a text on your phone that says there's an ad in your Adwallet, you open up your Adwallet, you're going to watch up to a 1.5 minute video from Burton about their new snowboards. And once you watch that video, answer a question about it to prove you paid attention to it, you can download an offer for a new snowboard. You can rate the video, which tells Burton whether or not they like that commercial or they should run another commercial. And then you're automatically going to be taken to Burton's website, where of course you can go buy a snowboard and they can retarget you. For doing all that, which takes about 1.5 minutes, you're going to get paid anywhere from 50 cents to $3. And Adwallet, whatever you get paid, Adwallet got paid. So in that case, if you got paid 50 cents, Adwallet got paid 50 cents, and we charge Burton $1. And that's how we make money. Basically, every time someone on Adwallet engages in an ad, we make anywhere from 50 to 75% of that engagement. The other engagements you can do on Adwallet is you can choose to reveal your verified email directly to Burton for an extra $1. You can reveal your verified cell phone number to Burton for an extra $2. And of course, all of those engagements, we made $2 and $1 on as well. And that's really how we make money. We run surveys as well. So Burton might say, hey, I want to talk to 200 snowboarding guys who, I'm going to ask them a 20-question survey about what they want in their new board. We charge for that. We pay you and we pay ourselves, of course. So we're really think of us as a pipe. We're just a middleman connect. We're like Uber, right? We connected Burton directly to the snowboarder and we took a cut for that engagement.
Yeah, that's cool. So Adam, because we are running out of time here, I wanted to ask 2 last questions for you here. One, that I think will expose just obviously a little bit of your creative nature and how you went about scaling when you didn't have everything in the world to work off of. And that question is simply just, in your business Adwallet, what was that one thing that you feel like, that one situation you feel like was the most creative situation that you went through to move the company without, having it all laid out in a huge plan? Like, what was that one thing, that split second thing that you did? You pulled together some specific things and it all worked out and the company moved forward. Tell us about one of those experiences that you had for us.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. It's funny, as a CEO, you don't remember your wins. You remember all your losses. I can tell you all the times I pulled stuff together that didn't work. Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't ever do that again.
You remember those a lot more. Yeah.
That was an epic failure. Right? It's funny because you really learn from those, right? Like, in fact, I'll tell you one of those, because I think sometimes you learn from the mistakes more than you learn from the wins.
Very much.
If you don't mind. Yeah. Biggest mistake we made. There is we were very excited about this. I mean, we thought this was brilliant and it was an epic failure. We thought that, we wanted to get more people to sign up for Adwallet, and we were able to get folks to sign up for Adwallet for about $2. We use Google or Facebook digital, anywhere from $2 to $3 is really what our CAC tends to be, which is pretty good, right? That's low. We're giving away free money, right? It's a pretty easy sell to sign up for Adwallet. So we got it in our head that in New Mexico, the University of New Mexico was playing the New Mexico State in this huge, basketball is a big deal here in New Mexico. And the Pit, our basketball arena for UNM, is one of the biggest arenas actually in the country for college basketball. Holds about 18,000 people. And because these are the two big colleges here, every year it sells out. It's a sellout game. 18,000 people are going to be sitting in the Pit cheering basketball. And we decided to sponsor that game for a pretty penny. And as part of our sponsorship, we begged to allow them to allow us to put little cards on every single chair in the Pit, where people, when they came in to watch the basketball game, could pick up the card. It talked about Adwallet, how easy it was to sign up, and go ahead and sign up. And I'm telling you, with me, and we got 20 of my friends, it took 3 hours. We have pictures of us in the Pit, like 18,000 of these cards, one on every single. We had to pay for the cards. We had to pay for, it was expensive. The game start, right? Everybody files in. We're so excited, right? We're like, oh, they're going to pick up the card. They're going to be like, we give away free money. Sign up right here. Cool. Two things we forgot to sort of take into account. We got, of 18,000 cards that we put on chairs, we got 34 signups, right?
Sheesh.
So like epic, shocking, remarkable failure. And we knew that they were signing up because there was a code on the card. We forgot two things. One, when people come into a basketball game like that, revved up to go watch basketball, they literally picked the card up off the chair and like threw it down and sat down and got ready for the game, right? They wasn't in an environment to sort of sign up for an app of any kind. It was, I'm here to like put my soda down, it's super loud, and sign up for, and watch basketball game. Number two, we also forgot to ask if there was Wi-Fi in the stadium, which there wasn't. So anybody who was signing up, couldn't, because right, the Wi-Fi was so cruddy in the stadium. People would try to sign up, and basically without Wi-Fi on your phone, it's pretty hard to download an app, especially when there's 18,000 people yelling and the basketball game starting. So that, again, like road to hell is paved by good intentions, right? It seems so smart. It ended up being a shocking failure. So as an entrepreneur, I guess what you should take from that is really, really think about when you're about to spend money on marketing. Okay, not only does it sound cool, there's a bunch of people there, but is this a relevant position for us? Are we talking to the right people? And most importantly, imagine that they really don't want to do what you want them to do. They don't not want to pay attention to what you want them to pay attention to. Yeah. How many obstacles are in their way? And in this case, there were just frankly too many obstacles for them to do what we were asking them to do. It was our fault. Totally.
Yeah. That was a very good lesson. I think that you should think about what, like, they really don't want to do what you have for them in the very beginning. That's how they're coming to you. That's how you're starting out. I think that's a perfect way to get started, not just with specifically, how you were advertising, but really anything can be thought of that way. And I think it would work very well. But Adam, that is everything that I had here for you. If you want to just shoot out any links to where we can find you, we can say goodbye after that.
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn, just Adam Greenhood. You can search me there. Greenhood, not wood, like Robin Hood, if you will. Or go ahead and email me. I'm pretty good at responding. I've been on the other side of it, when you're trying to get a hold of people when you're just starting, and it can be hard. They won't respond to you, but my email is just adam@adwallet.com. You can go ahead and email me right there, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Cause I'm still learning, right? I'm 3 years in, and I'm still, there are days I wake up going, I'm the smartest person in the world. And others I wake up going, what have I done with my life? This was a total mistake. And I'm happy to share both sides with anybody.
Yeah. So guys, Adam Greenhood on LinkedIn, or Tom Cruise obviously will work as well. Email is also open. I can link this stuff in the show notes. But going along with what you said, I think the collaboration atmosphere of entrepreneurship is something that people have to obviously do. And it just helps everyone so well based on what I've seen. But yeah, those are just the last thoughts. Adam, I want to thank you so much for coming out on the show, man. It was definitely a pleasure for me.
My pleasure for me too. Like I said, I love hearing myself talk, but I love what you're doing. I think creating an opportunity for entrepreneurs to learn. And it's funny, I think seasoned entrepreneurs should listen to shows like these too, because there's always nuggets. You can always learn from someone's journey. like I said, certainly from the wins as well as from the
Mm-hmm.
mistakes. And
Exactly.
I wish that you were doing your show 3 years ago. Probably, maybe you were, but I didn't find it 3 years ago. So, keep up. It's great.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was just about a year ago. A
Okay.
couple more months than a year. But all right, Adam, thank you so much, man.
Take care, Josh. Appreciate it.